Hello and welcome everybody. Today I'd like to start with the new Gambit line. So we continue the Gambit series and today's topic is play the Evans Gambit. So first of all I would like to tell you that the Evans Gambit was invented by William Davis Evans, the first player to employ it more than 170 years ago. Did you also know that Captain Evans was also a professional shipmaster and also quite strong amateur? Okay, after e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4 and bishop c5, Captain Evans discovered the amazing idea of b4 move. White is sacrificing a pawn, and the basic intention behind this move b4 is to give up the pawn, but to get as a compensation strong center and bear down on black's weak point f7. After bishop takes b4 and c3, often the idea of queen b3 and even prevent blacks from casting after bishop a3 is quite useful. The Evans Gambit has been played for over 100 years and it hasn't been refuted yet. Morphy, Chigorin, Fischer, Kasparov, Timan, Shirov, Short and Morozevich, so nice list, have all played successfully this opening. I would like to start this show from two games played by brilliant Bobby Fischer, who unfortunately passed away a month ago. Fischer needs no introduction, I believe, and just a few words about his play. He was a wholesome player who mastered each and every phase of the game. His play was harmonious and very instructive as well. Fischer, as well as Paul Morphy, the another American genius, fought for the initiative and every move, presenting his opponent with the problem after problem until the game was his. Well, before the phrase became a cliché, winning was the only thing for Fischer, and the Evans Gambit was one of his favorite openings. And I would like to start with the game which Fischer played in a simultaneous exhibition in 1964. b4, bishop takes b4, c3. This already the critical position of the opening. Even here, just we played 4 moves and white played move number 5, c3. Black already has wide number of choices, so black could go with his bishop to a5. Many play in this position bishop e7 and bishop c5, sometime played. Indeed, recently the move bishop d6 even become quite popular, trying to protect the center. Okay, in that game, Fischer's opponent decided to play bishop e7. Fischer immediately challenged the center, d4. So, black has to decide what to do in this situation. After e takes d4, white is getting clear advantage in the center and strong compensation for the sacrificed material. But what the problem if black just plays d6? Strangely enough, this move leads to immediate disaster. There are a few squares in black's position that are often under attack and prove a target for sacrifice by white. These squares are f7 and g7, and in many situations even h7 could be very nice aim for white pieces. So if we look at the position seriously, that after queen b3, one of the main threats in the Evans Gambit, black is having serious trouble with his pawn on f7. Fischer's opponent here deviates from the strongest continuation knight a5, which leads after bishop takes f7 to the situation when black's king is losing the castling rights and plays knight h6, which is a decisive mistake. Why? After knight a5, bishop takes f7, king f8, white has to play queen a4, king takes f7, and queen takes a5. And with the black's king in the center, extremely difficult for black to complete his development and to keep his king in the safe place. At the same time, white intending quite strongly black's center, so especially the pawn on e5. So black has to capture on d4 at some situation like here, and white just simply recapturing. With the next move, knight is coming to the game after knight c3. The bishop could be developed to b2, castling very short. And black, with his king in the center, is still having troubles. So black has to play knight f6 and rook f8 and king g8, but black has to spend a lot of time and energy to complete his development. So white, as I said, after bishop takes f7, we already took our pawn back, and with the same material, white's positional advantage is quite obvious. So our main question is, what exactly happened if black is not playing knight a5? Fischer's opponent decided to protect the pawn after knight h6, but he totally missed completely that after bishop takes h6, the knight has to be eliminated, and black's only answer is g takes h6. Then finally white is reaching the target, bishop takes f7. So necessary to point out that king d7 doesn't work, since white is playing queen e6 with a checkmate in 1. So the only answer is to play king f8, and white is coming with the last shot, bishop h5. So black is under mating threat, queen f7, has to continue losing his pawns after d5. So the position already very, very, very difficult. Fischer's opponent resigned in this situation. So you can ask 10 moves and black already resigned. One more game played by Fischer. Fischer played in 1963 a friendly game with Rubin Fine, one of the best players before the Second World War and American Grandmaster. But nevertheless, the game was extremely instructive, especially showing the main ideas of how to play in the Evans gamut. How important, like I showed in my previous lesson about the Danish gambit, to fight for initiative, to keep your development very fast, look for the good targets, and that game extremely instructive from all these points of view. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, b4, bishop takes b4, c3. In that game, Rubin Fine decided to move his bishop to a5. This is one of the best continuation, even according to today's theory. White has to play d4. So this is the main idea of the Evans gambit. And in this position, the better defense, according to the Second World War champion Emanuel Lasker, is d6, with intention after short casting to answer bishop b6, trying to keep pressing white's center and not allowing white to play queen b3, because after queen e7, black already intending move like knight a5, trying to destroy White's battery over the f7 pawn. Indeed, in that game, Rupert Fine decided to play just simply e takes d4. So he decided to capture all the pawns Fischer could offer him. Short castling. Fischer showing that in that game, in that opening, there is no time to count pawns. The initiative is much more dangerous when you have all your pieces rapidly developed. And the castling is one of the most important moves in the opening. It also takes your king out of the center. Also, your rook is ready to start his action. D takes c3. In that game, black is too materialistic. Better was to think about development. Queen b3. Fischer immediately intends the pawn on f7. And black has no time for the king side development. So black has to carry on somehow to protect this pawn on f7. Once again, knight h6 doesn't work. Why? Because we are just getting rid of that knight. Bishop takes h6, like in the previous game, which played by Fischer. And black is in big trouble. Queen e7. Despite the fact that we just played only 8 moves, black already having quite serious problems. Queen f6. This move wasn't played in that game, but you have to know how to react against this. Black's king is still in the center, and white is having the good opportunity to increase his space advantage. After e4, e5. Now the f6 square is banned for black's knight for a while. Also, we can pay attention that knight takes e5 is extremely dangerous, since after rook e1, black's knight is pinned. And after the only move d6, white is having quite nice tactics. Since that bishop on e5 is hanging. So we just play queen a1 check, and queen takes a5 is coming after knight takes. King f8, knight takes, and queen takes a5. White is having piece up with no any compensation. Definitely, black has no time for capturing the pawns, since white is having so huge development advantage. So black has to retreat with the queen after queen g6. But white is developing the pieces. Knight takes c3. Knight e7, bishop a3. Look at white aggressive bishop looking towards the black's king side. After this powerful move, which opens scope for the dark square bishop, black's position has become extremely dubious. The knight is on the way to the power d5 square, and it's not so clear how to stop it. Black must take the opportunity to trade bishop a5 for knight on c3. But even then, after bishop takes c3, queen takes c3, and short castling, white is keeping super strong pressure by playing simply rook a d1. Black almost cannot move. Look how strong all white pieces are posed towards the black's position. Okay, let's back to the game. In the original game, queen e7 was played. Knight takes c3. Once again, black had to eliminate this knight by playing bishop takes c3, but in that time, black chose knight f6, which we could call already the decisive mistake. It would be extremely hard for black now to survive white's pressure. Black, of course, was going to complete by the next move his development, playing short castling. But Fischer demolished this illusion, just playing knight d5. This is a powerful place for a knight. So, the opening of the e-file would be deadly for the black's king. Indeed, move like queen takes e4 is losing immediately after knight g5. So white is intending f7 pawn. Black is under mating threats already. Knight takes d5. E takes d5. So now where to go with the knight? First of all, let's look what would happen in case of knight d8. Right now, white cannot play rook e1, since bishop on e5 is controlling the e1 square. So pay attention, be careful. First of all, to complete your development, so bishop comes to a3. Very, very typical, very classical way of preventing black's pieces from being developed, and still black's king is kept in the center. Looks like only answer is d6, but once again black is solving one problem, but we can realize and other problems, the hanging position of the bishop now deciding the game for the white's favor after queen a4 check. Queen a4 check, bishop d7, queen takes a5. White is just piece up for 2 pawns, no any compensation for black. White has all his pieces on the very, very active position. Rook e1 threats, queen takes e7 threats. Black is totally lost. So knight d8 is losing immediately. Black has to play knight e5. One more important, very important principle in playing in the open position. When you have development advantage, it's very important to swap already developed pieces of your opponent. In that case, you have more pieces in the game. Knight takes e5, queen takes e5, and bishop b2. Look, white is having queen, bishop, c4, and bishop b2 already in the game. Castling already. His rook e1, just one move, and we are threatening the black's king. Don't pay attention too much about this bishop on e5. This is only developed pieces which black has in the game. After queen g5, white immediately distracts black's only developed piece. h4, we have to reach the g7 square. g7 pawn is a very nice target. Queen takes. Definitely black cannot wait for a while. After queen h6, white is winning with a very nice tactical shot. Look at that. Queen a3, attacking the bishop and intending rook e1 check with the incoming checkmate on e7. So whatever black plays, b6, we're just ready to sack. Exchange, and look at this nice position. Just very nice picture. Black is having all his pieces on the back rank. So what is the point that black is having right now? Exchange and 2 pawns up. Black's king is a very critical situation, and after king d8 we are checkmating him in 1. Queen e7. The game is over. So black almost forced to accept the sacrifice. That what Fischer's opponent played. Queen takes pawn. So we are coming with our classical way of destroying black's position on the king's side. Bishop takes g7. Rook g8. And ruining black's position. After rook f to e1. Black was trying to defend the fortress of his king with his last remaining forces, but white's heavy pieces now regrouping for the final assault. So it doesn't matter if black captures on e1 or plays immediately king d8. We are coming with the famous combination, also quite similar combination we saw in the Danish gambit, in my first lecture about Danish gambit. So just imagine that black's queen is not on h4 anymore. So if we try to get rid of this by playing queen g3. In case of queen take g3, white is checkmating black's position after bishop f6. In case black is trying to keep the queen protecting the f6 square after queen h6, of course we also could just simply capture the queen, bishop takes h6 with getting decisive material advantage. But why not just to checkmate black in 2 after bishop f6? That nice finish was chosen by Bobby Fischer. White's queen is intending g8 rook, which is unprotected, so black has to accept the sacrifice, and we are coming with a very nice mate construction. Queen takes the rook and the checkmate. Just 17 moves. So nice finish. Okay, it would be a good scene to carry on with the classical game by Paul Morphy, one of the brightest chess talents of chess history. At a very young age, Morphy became the best player in the USA and set off to conquer Europe, where all the top players were. At the age of 21, Paul Morphy shocked the world by defending all the top masters there, including Lowenthal, Horwitz, and even Andersen in the special matches. So the best player in the world, he soon gave up chess completely, leaving behind disappointed fans and hundreds of brilliant games. And I would like to show one of his games, which was played in London 1851. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5. Even in 1858, believe, already 150 years ago, the Evans gambit was so popular. b4, bishop takes b4, c3, bishop a5, d4. So you can understand that Fischer had a quite good teacher. So Paul Morphy played the Evans gambit very, very successfully. After e takes d4, Morphy, of course, well known as the greatest tactical player, and not only tactical but also brilliant positional player in that time, decided, of course, to castle and to offer black one more pawn. His opponent in that game decided anyway to play bishop b6. And after c takes d4, to answer with d6. So right now white cannot use his space advantage so much, and attack like queen b3, building the strong combination of pieces, queen b3, bishop c4, the battery over the f7 square, is not that useful, because while black is simply answering queen e7. Let's say after queen b3, queen e7, and we have to worry about knight a5 move, also about knight takes d4 move. Also, black could consider playing bishop g4, exploring white center. So queen b3 is too early. So according to the classical principles, Morphy decided to complete his development. He came with knight to c3, from where knight is controlling the most important squares e4 and d5. Black has to complete development with his knight. So where to go with the knight? First of all, we have to realize that knight e7 cannot be recommended, as f7 and h7 pawns are very nice target for white artillery. So we played immediately knight g5, intending f7. Black's only answer is short castling. But queen h5, immediately destroying black's position. So the knight is not situated on f6. In that case, white is having great opportunity bringing his queen to the most dangerous outpost on the king side. No any escape now for black. f7 attacked already 3 times by white pieces, and h7 is also attacked right now. So what to do? h6 only way. Knight takes f7, force black to give exchange away, because queen e8 leads to the checkmate. Check, check, and checkmate. Many games, by the way, finish that way. At least I found in database many different players who played the similar games. So knight e7 cannot be recommended. So Morphy's opponent decided to develop his knight to the center, also trying to follow the classical principles. Indeed, this move allowing Morphy to start the direct assault in the center. So white is having so huge already development advantage that e4, e5 move is also open up the center, but the main idea is to prevent black from castling. D takes e5. So what for white sacrifice his pawn? First of all, white opens up the lines around the black's king, them that become very typical exactly in the years when Morphy showed his brilliant games. So this is a classical way of play by Morphy. Getting the development advantage, open up the center, free the diagonals and files for his minor and heavy pieces, and finish the game with the decisive threats over the black king, which is stuck in the center. And funny enough, this game is not the exception. After d takes e5, bishop a3. So white has a huge positional compensation for the small material deficit. And I don't see any easy way for black to get rid of white's terrific initiative. Look, black's king is still in the center and has no any serious chance to get out of it. So black is trying not to open files after, let's say, e takes d4, rook e1 check, but to complete the development on his pieces on the queen side and to make the long castling. So black played bishop g4. White immediately intends f7 pawn, queen b3. Only answer, bishop h5. d takes e5. So white is just 1 pawn down, but look how active all the pieces. White is having full domination. Very nice control over the center. All the pieces in the game. Open files. Knight g4, only answer. Black somehow managed to finish his queenside development. However, it's clear to see the drawbacks of his position. The complete disharmony among black's pieces. and fatal weakness on the f7 to boot. Rook now comes to d1. Now black could forget about the long castling as well. It's important for white to bring the rooks to the center, because the center is the ideal place. d1 and e1 rooks. From these two squares, the rooks are supporting a potential breakthrough in the center after e5 and e6. Morphy displays an important lesson here, utilizing his quick development to create strong pressure over the center, which is very important in the opening phase. Queen c8. So Morphy is not waiting anymore. e6. Direct, very direct break. After this pawn move, the black's position collapses very, very fast. So black cannot capture because bishop takes e6, leaves his king totally unprotected. f6 is the only answer. So white is simply intending the bishop, queen h5. And after bishop g6, look, it looks quite safe that black could survive a few more moves. Indeed, Morphy played very unexpected move. Bishop d5. So simple, so quiet move. But that is the mastery of the super strong players. Played quietly. Simple moves, but at the same time decisive moves. So after bishop d5, black resigned. So Morphy opponent immediately gave up, because there is no any way to stop bishop takes c6, queen takes c6. Look at the so bad position of the black's king in the center. So what we studied, we just started with Evans Gambit, but already from the first three examples we can see the powerful development of all white pieces, the strong center control, temping development of all the pieces, trying to create the press over the f7 square, prevent black's king from castling. All these points are very, very important in the Evans Gambit. Ideas, by the way, quite similar from the Danish Gambit which we studied in the previous lesson. But this Gambit, Evans Gambit, is still very, very important part of the opening repertoire of many strong players, as I said before. Even in the last week in the tournament, I saw that Nigel Short very successfully used and won the game quite easily after something like 30 moves. So, very nice opening, and I would like to thank everybody for watching my lectures, and see you next time with the continue second part of the Evans Gambit. Bye.